Now, in a technocracy, the vessel of control is operated through large, multinational, global, giant businesses. In a pseudo-democratic republic, it was really secret societies and trilateral commissions, Bilderberg, roundtable groups, Council of Foreign Relations, Royal Institute of International Affairs, groups like that operating through national governments. What it appears to be heading toward is those very same groups operating through overt businesses, private corporations, and using the capitalistic nature of the marketing of the products that these corporations sell, like Google services or Android services or Apple services, to really be the tool of control. Case in point, Apple. Apple has always been this company that prides itself on security and secrecy, and we don't share your whereabouts with the government, et cetera, et cetera. What they never told you is that they don't need to share your whereabouts with the government if they become the government eventually. And again, keeping in mind, government is really maybe not the best way to put it. A board of directors that the keys and authority of the governing of the people is handed over to by the actual politicians, because, let's face it, Apple made, $22 billion last quarter? They make $22 billion in 3 months. That's profit. They revenue somewhere around $90 billion. But $22 billion, now that is currency. That's capital. That is buying power. That's moving power. That gets you a seat at the big boys table, especially when your core product tracks everybody who has it in their pocket or on their wrist. Microsoft and Bill Gates and all that stuff is the same thing. It's like governments don't really do anything. Governments just operate as shell companies so that specific interests, lobbyists, super PACs, things like that, can operate through them and get things done. And now that the government model is kind of being phased out, I think that they're going to simply phase out government. I really don't think that there are going to be elections this year. I could be wrong about that. I might change my mind in a couple months, but if things keep going the way that they've been going so far in 2020, there won't be no elections. There will be the talk of elections. There will be the assumption of elections, but an event will happen in or around election day, particularly because it's only a few days after Halloween, which happens to be their largest day of ritual sacrifice, by the way. And I can't predict how or what will happen. And again, it might be because this is a big fight between good and evil. Good people like you and me, are very adaptable. We change, we learn new information, we sidestep, we do something different than what we would normally do. So their models are broken now. And so then they react to that. They change their tune. They say, Anthony Fauci's on record. There's no reason why any American should wear masks. Masks, that's not effective, right?
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. But it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. But it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
He says this in March. 2 months go by and we see him standing up on stage wearing a mask because the script has now changed. And he has to basically comply, even though he realizes that it's useless, but he can't be the one actor that steps out of line, so he wears it, right? And it's uncomfortable and he's fidgeting with it the whole time. But they changed their tune left, right, and center. The World Health Organization, even though I don't trust them, just came out yesterday and said, we have found no evidence in our data that suggests that a non-symptomatic or asymptomatic carrier has been successful at transmitting the virus to another person.
But from the data we have, it still seems to be rare that an asymptomatic person actually transmits onward to a secondary individual.
That's the entire premise behind why they're mandating masks, by the way. Even though on the back of the box of masks, it'll say, this will not protect you against COVID-19. Now, how the mask can't protect you but can somehow protect someone else is a giant mystery to me. And if you can figure out how, let me know. But the mask manufacturers say it doesn't help. The regulators don't give anybody stipulations as to what type of mask you need. N95, cloth mask, bandana, piece of paper, pantyhose, thong, granny panties, like what's required, right? Which one actually stops? Paper, a knit mask with the holes that I can actually take a photo through, or a piece of paper mask with holes still about 100 times larger than a virus molecule that you need an electron microscope to even see. Again, none of the science actually checks out. And the World Health Organization is saying, kind of like, listen, we didn't find a correlation. And they say that because they need the out. They need the actual legit doctors to shut up for a second and not scream too loud because they realize their science is bunk science. But nevertheless, Gavin Newsom still issues orders that all Californians have to wear masks. And who are you to question it? And if you start questioning it, apparently now in West Hollywood, you get a $300 fine and a $1,000 fine if you step out. It's like, but why? The lady at the World Health Organization just said that it's not, that you don't transfer. Like they haven't found any evidence to suggest that an asymptomatic carrier can transfer anything to someone else. That's not the way these things work. And human immunity, things like sun and family and love and healthy foods and, vitamin and exercise. This is how people get healthy, not muzzling yourself and isolating yourself. That's like the quickest way to get sick and depressed. Not a single number has ever been pitted against the official death numbers, which we know they're lying about, right? Like 8 people die. They fudge the numbers to say that 180,000 people die. But they're not talking about how many people have committed suicide, how many people are suffering from depression, how many people are taking paint thinners and bath salts and anything they can get their hands on to actually cope with the isolation of having lost their jobs, not being able to see their friends, family, and loved ones, and all these other things. And everybody's focused on new cases. Well, statistically speaking, new cases with fewer deaths means less virus. If I test 4 people out of 1,000 and 2 of them have COVID and 2 of them don't, that's a 50% chance that you got COVID. It's like 50% transmit. Half the people we tested have it. If I test another 2 people, now 4 out of 6 don't have it, but the 2 still have it, then the percentage is going down. However, the test number is going up. If I test 10 people and 3 have it, but 7 don't, the cases went up, but the actual percentage is going down. So the cases are always going to go up relative to the amount of tests that are being administered. But the death numbers is what nobody's talking about. Like the correlation of the increase in tests and cases compared to the increase in deaths is so much lower, proving that this is less deadly than anybody ever thought. Tuberculosis is more deadly. Malaria is more deadly, Shigella is more deadly, norovirus is more deadly, freaking influenza is more deadly. The influenza from 2 years ago is more deadly. And all the statistics are right on the CDC website. And I don't even trust the CDC, but I'm just saying, look at the liars. Look what they say. And they use the fraudulent numbers to support fraudulent themes and theories. And even their numbers aren't even making sense if you really break the numbers down. But, and again, I'm not the only one who's saying this. Tons of doctors are saying. I'm just reading what these doctors are saying and be like, really, you guys? Is this what's really going on? And when I tried to share the information with other people, for the most part, they're like, well, I don't know why other doctors saying it's the case. It's like, I don't know, because other doctors are being deceived. Is it so hard to believe that a doctor can be deceived? All of them were taught in schools based on books written by the pharma companies. Maybe this was planned. I don't know. They do model this stuff 20, 30 years in advance. They put it in all kinds of movies and TV shows and stuff like that.
We know it acts like a virus. It causes high fever and respiratory distress.
For anyone who hasn't been exposed already needs to wear a mask.
China. Isn't that where flu viruses come from?
Yeah. A lot of viruses come from there.
International flight to China?
That's no coincidence. Whatever it is, it originated in China.
Time is not on our side.
It's like looking for a needle in a needle stack.
We have ruled out all the usual suspects: influenza, SARS, bacterial pneumonia.
How long is that going to take?
Well, it took 34 days to isolate the coronavirus that caused SARS, and that's fast.
I'm authorizing a quarantine on everyone who's come in contact with a symptomatic person.
There's got to be something I can do.
And the enzyme this virus needs when they were
So the chloroquine did this. So the chloroquine.
Chloroquine.
This is it. This is your virus.
I'm sorry, but there's no cure for that. Chloroquine, that's an anti-malarial drug.
No. Listen, it suppresses the enzymes.
So the jury is still out on exactly what COVID is. What we know it is not is what they've been telling us for the last 9 months. some disease that showed up out of some guy who ate a bat in China somewhere, I don't know when, And what we're seeing right now is the technocracy establish itself externally. They need infrastructure to do this. The control grid relies on a pervasiveness of wireless signals, and the establishment of those wireless signals definitely has a negative side effect on our body's physiology. I think a lot of people are feeling that. We just don't really know what to call it, and barely any money is put into research about identifying the ramifications of all this new technology, because the momentum is in the hands of the technology companies. They don't want you to know if there's side effects to having 3 cell phones, 2 iPads, a watch, and now a new wireless Wi-Fi vaccine in your bloodstream. They don't really want anybody to do the tests to prove that probably isn't actually healthy for humanity in the long run. But a technocracy is what's being formed. Apple does not need to give up your data. Microsoft does not need to give up your data. Google does not need to give up your data, because they are the new form of government. So, yeah, your iCloud know exactly where you are at all times, and no, they don't share that with the government because they are the government. So great. Everybody wins. We didn't lie, and technically you got a phone that you're happy with because it's got some games and Instagram is loaded on it. And Amazon works for the moment, and it's kind of it's like they're giving you the option of put on a mask and basically line up like be a little obedient person, even though there's no evidence to suggest that this is helpful, and all the evidence in the world to suggest that your oxygen is being lowered. And then go to a brick and mortar store and see how much you like that experience.
Hey, line's back here. Okay.
Let's go to Trader Joe's and stand outside for 45 minutes just because, a group of people can't be in a tiny Trader Joe's all at once. Get your little, almond milk or whatever, and then make it back home and see how much easier it is to just shout at Alexa from across the room to order it for you. You see what I'm saying? It's like it's like social marketing. It's like you don't actually like being around people anymore, do you? They might have a freaking virus and it could kill you and your loved ones. How about you just stay home and leave it up to us to make everything better? And people are complying, man, around the world too. This is not just an American phenomenon. That's what I'm always thrown back by when I talk to my friends in Italy or China or Uganda, South Africa. It's the exact same thing happening there, which is just proving that this has nothing to do with Donald Trump, even though I don't like this dude. It's not his fault, and it's not isolated to America. We're not dealing with this in any unique kind of way. We're dealing with it just like every other country is dealing with it. And the entire globe grinded to a halt in basically 7 or less days back in March. And it's still halted. Yeah, a beach or two is opening back up, and maybe your local Smoothie King is back open with all kinds of like plexiglass all over the environment, as if a virus can't just float through the air around the plexiglass. There's all kinds of just like desperate measures set up to suggest a new normal that's constantly being changed and updated with every changing week, because they're lying. They're just lying, bro. That's the only way to explain it. They are 100% lying, and the only way to cover the lie is to tell an even bigger lie.